So I've done about 500 miles in this now, and so far it hasn't missed a beat, so I'm really pleased with that. What I'm not too happy about is, of course, in recent months fuel prices have gone through the roof. But there is something I can do that should reduce that by about 40%, and that is an LPG conversion. If you've seen my earlier videos, you may remember I had already started to convert this van when it had the old engine. And although that had a carb system, which is no good for this engine, I'm hoping things like the tank, the filler and the associated pipework can all be reused. If we take a look inside the valve unit on the tank, you can see the main outlet solenoid here. Once energised with 12 volts, that allows liquid gas to flow down the pipe. It's critical that's shut at this point, and you can see I disconnected the wiring in the past to make sure it stayed closed. Some tanks have a manual valve you can screw down as well, just to make sure, but this one just had the solenoid. These are the new parts I've got for this engine. I've gone with an AC Stag kit, as for me they just strike the perfect balance between cost and quality. So the first item to look at is the vaporiser. This takes the liquid gas from the tank and, well, vaporises it. The old one's no good for the new system, so I'll start by replacing it. Up next is the injector rail. Now this works pretty much like you'd expect really. It takes the now vaporised gas in from one end and the 4 injectors control the timing and volume of gas to each cylinder. I'd previously mounted it roughly here on my other van, which was okay, but it did get in the way a bit, so I'm thinking this time I might mount it over here on its side. It comes with its own bracket, which after a little modification should work nicely. These are what's known as the injector nozzles. They screw into the injector rail and control the amount of gas that can exit each injector. From the factory they come pre-drilled to a standard size, but I need to check what it recommends for this engine. It goes by engine power in kilowatts and it lists it per cylinder. So this engine is about 74 kilowatts, so that's 18.5 per cylinder. And if we look on the chart, that means a nozzle size of 2mm. Obviously it's imperative no swarf is left inside, you don't want that ending up in the cylinders. And to guarantee a good seal, they come with these little green O-rings. The inside of the barb end takes a standard metric Allen key, and they don't need to be massively tight here. It mounts to the bracket on rubber isolators, which I guess helps with vibration or possibly noise, or both, I'm not really sure. They're probably not essential anyway. I'm thinking the central cam cover bolt looks ideal for mounting it on. It's even long enough not to have to disturb the original nut. I do need to remove the throttle linkage again though, as that will get in the way of the spanner. I've used a nylock here, so again it doesn't need to be all that tight. Up next in the kit is the map sensor. This is actually a dual sensor, so it measures gas rail pressure as well as manifold vacuum. I'm not sure why that T-piece is separate, but it's only one clip to install it. So this is the pipe which has to connect the vaporizer outlet to the injector rail. So I'm thinking it's probably best to go up here around along the bulkhead and pop out of the back here. That's quite a neat route, so that works out quite well. But somewhere along that I've got to include the map sensor. So I think it would make sense to put that there on the bulkhead, because I've also got to get a small airline to it teed into the original map sensor from the engine, and that's just right there. So that makes it nice and close for that, and that's in line with the run. So that, to me, makes perfect sense. One of the issues you face when turning liquid gas into a vapour is that the process takes in heat from the surroundings in a similar way to the principles of refrigeration and air conditioning. Left to its own devices, the vaporizer will quickly draw in heat and start to get so cold that it freezes up entirely. The solution is to tee into the engine coolant lines, as they have plenty of excess heat already, and run extension hoses down to circulate hot coolant around the vaporizer. The two best pipes to tee into are usually the heater matrix feeds. Essentially the vaporizer then just runs in parallel to the matrix. Oh, I hate destroying things. I mean, I really hate destroying things. Still, needs must, I suppose. Right, back to the injectors, and the next bit to figure out are the injector hoses. These go from the injectors and transfer the gas pulses down to each cylinder. Now I've got better access, you can see the blanks I fitted when I had the manifold off in the past. The injector barbs screw straight into the manifold, and to make sure I get a good seal, a little PTFE tape should do the trick. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I always get that wrong. If you wrap it the wrong way, it just undoes when you thread it in. Now, everyone I've spoken to always says you have to remove the manifold to drill and tap them. And although I did do that here, as I had the manifold off anyway before, I've found that with a little ingenuity it is possible to do it with the manifold still in place. If you rig up a vacuum cleaner with a blow function on the inlet pipe and block off all other air ports, then you can create a high pressure chamber inside the manifold. With another vacuum next to the drill to catch the swarf, once you finally break through with the drill, the pressure from the manifold blows any swarf outwards. I've used this technique on at least 5 vehicles now to good effect, so it does seem to be reliable. If you're in any doubt though, then removing the manifold and blowing through with an airline afterwards is usually how it's done. So this is the injector hose that I'm going to be using. Now, I don't tend to be particularly brand loyal with anything, but I do with this stuff because I've tried the cheaper stuff and it just perishes so quickly. So this is genuine Parker hose. It's made in Italy and it's the proper LPG grade of hose. Now, I've got about 10 years out of this already on another vehicle, so I know this is good stuff, so I always use this Parker stuff now. There may be another brand out there that's equally as good, but I tend to stick to the Parker stuff now. Now, when routing these, there's a couple of kind of best practice rules that it's good to follow. Now, one of them is that all the hoses ideally want to be the same length. So the first thing I need to do is work out what the longest one's going to be, and then essentially that'll set all the other lengths for the other ones. So given how far this is from the front one, I think that's going to be the longest one. Now, the mistake I made on my other van was I actually mounted the injector rail up here. And that made for a lovely neat route straight down, but it's a pig to get to the spark plugs when you want to change them. So that's why I've gone for it over here on this one. Now that does unfortunately interact or compete with another rule, which is that ideally you want the hoses as straight and as short as possible. But of course every install is different, every engine's different, it's not always possible to get it ideal. This one's not going to be, you know, too bad, but looking at this, obviously we've got the pivot for the throttle body there, so I think it's going to have to go underneath that in order to clear that. So it's going to have to go up from there, down there, and then coil round into that one, which again isn't ideal to have a sort of U-bend like that, but I don't really see any other option, because even if I take it up here, you've still got that bend, and of course you're then getting in the way when you want to get to the spark plugs. So I don't even know if that would clear the throttle linkage, so I think that on that one is going to have to be the route tucked up underneath the throttle linkage and then down to there. Now the length of these, some say a maximum of 200, some say up to 300 depending on who you speak to. I think on this occasion 300 is looking about possible. Let's just sort of get a rough idea. So that's about there. Kind of in there. So if we get a tape measure on that, we'll see what that looks like. So that's 3.1, yeah. So what I'll probably do, I'll probably make it 300. We should just about be able to get away with that. And that is within the maximum limit of, or the upper maximum limit of what they say. So that's now the length that I'm going to cut all of the pipes to. Now the pressures aren't massive here, but there is always a small chance that the hose might pop off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use these double ear clamps, which should hold the ends on nicely. Now access here for the crimping tool is quite easy, but of course down here it's much harder, but I'll just have to see what I can do. Yeah, just crimping it sort of at the bottom at the top, that works quite well. I mean, it will mark the clamp, but I don't really see what else I can do. Those sort of spring clips might have been a better idea, but I didn't have any of those. So now this one was fairly straightforward to keep it out of the way of everything. I will obviously tie it back afterwards, but this second one, obviously you've got the first spark plug here, and that's there, so it's going to get, clip back in, it's going to get somewhat in the way, whichever way I go really. So what I might do is put the linkage back on, just so I know what I've got to avoid. Popped on like that. Yeah, so I'll have to tie that one sort of down like that, but that's okay. That'll be alright. He's going to have to go towards the petrol rail. And like that, I think. Unless I keep it back here, but I don't, that's going to be quite, yeah, that's going to be quite a sort of pigtail route, that. It's a constant trade-off between ease of access to the spark plugs and, you know, smooth run for the flow of the gas. But I think just a straight line across there, and that sort of tied up back to the injector rail. You probably can't see any of that, but I think that's going to be the best route for that. Now, we've got to be really careful when doing these, is that you don't obviously pinch into the rubber. That's good. Just rotate that back round. Because obviously they've got to line up, haven't they? I mean, that's just a given, that, isn't it? Yeah, so with that tied off back there, that clears that fine. Well, I think that'll do us for part one, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.